This is Dr. Herbert Harris with another edition of Success Talk. And, you know, this is a program where we talk to people who've been very successful in almost everything they attempt, but also who've had challenges, who've had disappointments, and who have made breakthroughs to their greatness. And today we have my good friend Kalvin Evans. Kalvin, welcome to Success Talk.
Dr. Harris, it is a pleasure and an honor to speak with you. Thank you for having me on, sir.
Man, I tell you, our mutual friend Ricky Young spoke so highly of you. And I said, now this guy is special, man. Tell us a little about your background, Kalvin.
Well, well, I grew up in a household where my dad was a Vietnam veteran. And in fact, not only was he a Vietnam veteran, I want to take time out to honor him because he was responsible when he was stationed in Frankfurt at the base there of exposing racism there on the post. He was the one that was responsible for calling the NAACP onto that post, which was the first of its kind in history to not only do the research and investigate, but to also expose some very important people at that time.
Mm,
So he was not appreciated or thanked because of that. And when he got out of the military, in fact, he was forced out in 1973. And from that point on, uh, he tried to make the American dream work. And so my household, I'm the oldest of three brothers, and from my dad and my mom, they're divorced now. Thankfully, they're both still alive. I live not too far from him in Colorado, and I had to learn what it was as an African American man in our nation, of the things and the struggles that he faced. My mom, as a nurse, working as an African American woman in our nation, and learning that success came with effort, hard work, and trials, and
mm,
that's where character is forged. And so that was my backdrop growing up.
mm.
Moved a lot, lived in Texas most of my life. Graduated Houston in a little town called Deer Park, Texas, and then after that, joined the United States Air Force as a Russian and Chinese linguist. So
Wow.
I was in Intel
Mm,
and did that for 8 years. And it was the foundation for me in becoming the man that I am today. From survival school, SEER training in Spokane, Washington, where I had to learn what it really meant to be reliant on information, your wits, overcoming adversity, strength, not just physical strength, but inner strength. And my relationship with God started in Okinawa, Japan, being overseas in another country and learning a different culture. So my life, that's my backdrop for my life.
wow. Wow. Now, Chinese and Russian, that's an interesting combination.
Yes, it is an interesting combination. It's a funny story, actually, Dr. Harris. Um, I actually have a good story about my Air Force recruiter. He came during
Hmm.
a career day at high school in my senior year. Wasn't too sure what I was going to do. I thought about going to the Air Force Academy, but at that time I had puppy love and I didn't want to leave my then girlfriend at the time.
Hmm.
And then I decided to join the military uh, because it seemed like the most viable option. And at that time, the recruiter that was there cared enough about me to have me take the test for languages called the DLAB test and see how I do. Well, I did really well, even though I didn't finish the test. And he wound up making sure that I got a great job becoming a Russian linguist at that time. The year was 1990,
Uh-huh.
graduated high school, and then a few weeks later, I was shipped off to San Antonio, Texas, a Lackland Air Force Base, to my adventure at 6 weeks at Air Force boot camp. So I,
Mm.
I learned quite a bit. Then after that, went to Monterey, California for a year to learn Russian. Then I went back to Texas, to San Angelo, Texas, to learn tech school and training on military training. Then I went to Spokane, Washington after that. And then in 1992, I was sent to Okinawa, Japan, where I stayed for 2 years. And it was the uh, one of the most impactful times of my life of being in a different culture and understanding my role in the military and why I love my country so much at that time.
Wow. Wow. Many people And let me just take my hat off to you. One, for your thank you for your military service, but also
Absolutely.
so so many of our young men don't get a chance to see the world. So many of the young men. I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina. And when I grew up, this was a. As a matter of fact, my mother built the house that I live in, and I bought the houses next door when I came back to take care of my aunt. And at that time, when I was a young man, it was a middle class neighborhood. It eventually deteriorated into the hood,
Mm,
and then now with gentrification, it's now the cargo district.
wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and I mean, so it's the trendy cargo district. So the house that this is my studio now. I bought this for about $60,000, and it was just appraised at 250. So, and we're talking in like 10 years. Okay,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
A- and so being here, but I still see many young men of color, and so often when I talk with them, I realize they've never been anywhere. They've never been
Mm,
out of town. They haven't seen
mm,
things. And so many of them have gotten records, those, when kids get in trouble and
right.
the first instances say, well, you just plead guilty and you won't have a problem. But they don't understand the impact that has on their future.
E- Exactly.
And many times the military, especially the Air Force, won't take you if you don't have a high school diploma and if you have a record or any of those kind of things. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And through adversity, Dr. Harris, the interesting thing about adversity is that it tries and tests the hearts of men. And
Mm,
when it tests the hearts of men, you get to see through the trials and tribulations that a person goes through what bubbles up. Now, I'm not saying that people are perfect. We're far from perfect. And when things come up, no matter how ugly they may seem, we always have a choice and a decision of what to do with that.
wow.
We
Yes.
can we can either hold on to that and say and make that our identity, or we can say, I don't really like that about myself. What can I do to become better as a human being, as a person? What do I need to do in order to change? Who do I need to align myself with? And where can I go from here? And as much as I hate our judicial system at times for what it has done to the African American family, to the men especially, and what that has done, I have heard stories of intervention and redemption in spite of the cards dealt to certain people because they chose to do something different with their life. And once they made that choice that they weren't going to be identified as a criminal or as a terrible person or whatever, and they chose to use the options that are available to them or fight to get the options available to them, they changed their lives. And in the midst of being incarcerated, were able to get phenomenal education to the point that some even became lawyers.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
the option and opportunity, as you well know in the 12 universal laws of success, all begins with a choice.
absolutely. And you said something at the beginning that's very important. In many of my interviews, I often ask, especially young people, I said, is there that one person or somebody who guided the way, who made that difference in your life where you made that turn? And as you were just talking about the recruiter who took an interest in you and showed you a whole some I doubt before you met him that you had any idea that there was even a linguistics program in the Air Force.
I had no clue or idea what that
Uh-huh.
was all about. I thought I
Yeah.
was in some sort of 007 James Bond scenario there. And he
Yeah.
helped to elucidate my mind and understanding of what it was all about. And he believed in me enough to send me to a place where I never believed existed. Sunny
Mm,
Monterey, California, compared to growing up in Texas, Houston, Texas, was Disneyland compared to where I grew up at. I
yeah.
couldn't believe how blue the water was, how fresh the air was, the smell of the ocean,
Yes.
the beauty of the mountains. It would have never crossed my mind. It was so impactful to me that when I got off the plane, because we flew into San Francisco, then took a puddle jumper from San Francisco to Monterey. As soon as I stepped off, they sent military personnel to come pick us up. The staff sergeant at that time, who was one of the office administrators, saw me come off the plane and laughed because of the look on my face of pure utter delight, joy, surprise of being able to be in such a beautiful location.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Man. Well, in going through that phase, the military, what would you say were the biggest one or two challenges? We all have these David and Goliath moments where
Yeah.
it seems like there's a wall or something just keeping you from moving through. Did you have a couple of challenges like that, and how did you get through them?
There's two specific challenges that stand out the most. I was in the basic training, and it was good for me to be in basic training and to be broken down and then rebuilt again to become a better person. And during that time, we had the ability where we had different flights, and different flights had different numbers, and we had certain groups that we were attached to. And during that time, we had a competition, like a field day, where we did running and whatnot and sports and stuff like that, where we could see who was the best flight at that time. And we had been practicing, and I was practicing, I think it was the 440. It was a relay race, and there was four of us, and I was the third leg, and we started off, and it was a mixed group, and the lead runner, she gave up in the middle of the run.
Mm,
So she gives up. She's dead last, like I would have to say 500 yards behind. And our flight, who's watching in the stands, are extremely let down because she basically gave up. And then the next person that was in line had a shorter run and got the baton to me. And once I received the baton and I realized how far behind we were, the person that was in front of me, I'd say he was probably a good 100 to 200 yards in front of me.
mhm.
So I get the baton and I'm running, and all I'm doing is I'm focusing on his back because I'm thinking if I can just catch up to him, maybe we might still have a chance.
Mm.
Unbeknownst to me, I was gaining. Not only was I gaining on him, but I was gaining on the rest of the pack. And so as I'm running, because I'm on the opposite side of the track, and I'm coming in front of my flight with all the guys there, I hear this roar, like this roar of people screaming and
Yeah,
yelling and things
yeah.
like that. And all I know is that I must be doing well, so I'll just keep focusing on that guy and that's in front of me. So I wound up catching him on the second run, turn around the track. I catch up to him and then I pass him, and I'm able to pass it to the last guy who has to run 4 laps around. And so, unbeknownst to me, when I finally finished, our coach at that time was laughing and crying and just excited about what had happened. And what had happened was is that I wound up catching up where our first person had completely given up, brought us back in the race, and we wound up winning that race. So
Wow.
the moral of the story is for me from that was never, ever, ever give up. No matter how far behind you are, no matter how many obstacles are in front of you, never give up because you don't know the blessing that comes when you finish and you finish strong.
Wow.
That was the first thing.
Mhm.
Second thing was SEER training, being in survival school. So I had to learn how to survive if our plane crashed in the water because my job was supposed to be on a plane. If we ever crash landed in the wilderness, how we were supposed to survive in the wilderness. If we were ever caught as a POW or prisoner of war. And in that training, Dr. Harris, I had to learn how to become a man, meaning that it's different when you go to school and you learn how to be in the corporate jungle or the concrete jungle. It's a different scenario when your actual survival is at stake, and you have to learn what it means to get food, shelter, water, warmth, and protect yourself in the midst of hostile territories or things like that. And I learned so much during survival school that I've applied it to my life in terms of There is nothing so terrible or so tough that I can't work through or get through. It gave me the confidence to believe not only in myself, but that I have the mind and the ability to be able to figure out problems and situations and to prepare me for my life and all the things I've had to face. And I can't say enough about that schooling of what it
Mhm.
did for me.
Wow. We often say that living is a learned skill, but as you
Yes.
were talking, I was thinking, man, if I got dropped in anywhere where there wasn't a McDonald's, I might have a because that to learn those things, eh, I really have to take my hat off to the military period because they teach you some things, and to have those specialized areas, that real survival training, I mean, and to plan for every possible eventuality, that really, you were talking about choices.
Hmm.
That when you really, I think many people have challenges making choices because they don't have enough experience or exposure to see all the possibilities. You know,
Mm, right,
they
right.
can look at something, they only see one thing. There's an African proverb that says that the man who's never left home thinks his mother's the best cook.
That's a very good proverb.
Yeah,
That's a very
yeah,
good proverb.
yeah. And so, to get that type of specialized training. Now, your company, I was looking your Exodus. Now, what are you doing now, and how do you incorporate that into your present program?
SEER training or survival school training taught me about living life as an adventure.
Mm,
Life is sometimes brought in a perspective that it can be difficult, that it can be trying, that I've been dealt terrible cards. When
mm-hmm,
I was in survival school, it showed me that life is an adventure.
mm,
Exodus Exodus means leaving the ordinary behind, leaving the stuff that tries to draw you down and bring you down behind. And adventure is meaning that you're going forward with your life, believing that your life is an adventure and that you have a purpose, a vision, and you are made for something to do on this planet. You have a specific gift that our world needs, that if you stick with it, if you stay out of the depression, the angst, the societal norms, if you stay away from allowing those things to dictate the type of person that you are, and you do the inner being strengthening of yourself, of growing, of maturing, of um, visualizing the gifts that you were given, that you were supposed to do something powerful on this planet, you will walk in a way that regardless of what you face, you will be a living, shining example to those around you. And I've
wow,
only been able to understand that through the life that I've lived and the trials that I've faced and the God that I serve, because of how real he has been in my life to keep me alive and strengthen me through a lot of adversity.
wow. That's such a beautiful piece as you were saying that life is an adventure. It's, that I guess lifetime is our gift from God, but
Yes,
what we do with that time is our gift to God.
that's correct.
And when you
I
see life as an adventure, I mean, that's just a whole nother take on it. Yeah.
That's a whole different take, because then in an adventure, there are trials, there are difficulties, and yet there's exhilaration when you overcome. There's
Mm,
something about overcoming obstacles and trials and tribulations that begins to awaken the thirst for understanding and belief and faith that no matter what you go through, that you're going to make it. It's going to be okay. And that's
wow.
important. That's
Yeah.
important in this life, because unfortunately in our military, there's been so many suicides and PTSD and things of that matter that have brought a lot of my military brothers and sisters down. That breaks my heart, and it started with my dad and understanding what he went through. Started with me being in the military and the things that I saw and faced, and then now, as I serve in an organization called Project Sanctuary, of what military families have had to go through and what they are going through. Um, there's so many things that I could say and share, and I want to be a part of change that helps encourage an individual to never give up. Do not give up, no matter how tough or difficult it is, because you matter. We
Yes.
all
Yeah.
matter.
Yes. Wow. It's amazing. The politicians,
Mhm.
if you can get through one, I think most of the offices are set up that if you can get through one session and get elected that second time, then you get all kinds of lifetime benefits like health care and pensions and things like that. Just he said, all you gotta do is get reelected one time. I guess if you're a one-term congressman, you don't get anything other than out when you lose. But when you can stay there for more than one term, and it always bothered me that we didn't treat our military the same way. That if you've gone out there, listen, you spend one day on the battlefield. Let's say, well, you only served a week. Let me tell you, in a week you can live 2 or 3 lifetimes on the battlefield
Exactly.
in the challenges, and that there should be number one, when a person has served, they should never have to worry about health care. Okay, not have to. When I was a young man, when I had an uncle that had been in the military and one of his friends, and to go to the hospital, you had to go all the way to Winston-Salem from
Right.
Wilmington. You couldn't go to the hospital up the street. And as far as you might say, a poor black family, it was out of the question. By the,
Exactly.
by the time Sandra's Uncle Toon, by the time they finally got there, he ended up one of those statistics. So,
Mm,
yeah, that's if there's one message I think the world should hear, especially that those in power, to really honor the military in the way that it should be honored. I think in ancient times, man, when you were a military person, man, you were the highest, honored, and you didn't have to worry about anything. That was the whole
exactly.
point. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. I also have a a love in my heart for my people, the
Mm,
African American people. I also have Native American blood in me, and what I find interesting is that within our culture, instead of focusing so much on what was done to us as far as slavery, we need to remember our history of what
yes,
we have contributed and
yes.
what we have given and who we are and how we were raised by kings and queens and how our culture in Africa has been denigrated and downgraded to the point that we have forgotten the things that we have learned and knew back then. We
Yes.
need to remember what's most important and why and what we've been able to contribute and not get lost in the cacophony of entertainment and things
Mm,
like that that remove what the powerful things that we have contributed even in this nation. And if
yes.
we just took the time to remind ourselves and remind our young ones and those that are coming up of what's most important, things would change. Things would change tremendously.
Mm. Now, have you ever in your travels been to Egypt?
You know what, Dr. Harris? That's one of my bucket list items. And let me share something with you about that.
Uh-huh.
In your 12 universal laws of success, it is important to have goals, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Yes, yes,
so,
yes.
so, as a part of my goal and my bucket list item, I want to travel to different places all over the world. I want to go to Egypt. I want to go to Africa. I've been to Japan, and I enjoyed the Asian culture, but I want to travel and learn more about cultures and people. And so I would love to go to Egypt, and that is my goal to, um, as I overcome the things that I'm dealing with now, that is my reward to myself to be able to go and do those types of things.
Wow. Well, you're gonna love it, man, because I had a chance to go with Dr. Ben.
Oh
The
wow,
Yeah, Dr. Ben Yohanan. He was a good friend. His office and my office were in the same building in Harlem.
wow,
And when he took a tour, it would be a 3-week tour. And he would lecture in the mornings Well, no, we would go out and see the antiquities in the mornings, and then he'd lecture in the afternoon because we would go. I guess in the summertime, we went there in December. The times we went, his main trip was like the about the second week in December through the first week in January. So that was summer there. And
Wow.
so in the mornings, we would go to see the pyramids, see the tombs, the Valley of the Kings. And then in the afternoon, we'd come back to the hotel and he would lecture. And
Wonderful.
it 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 brought us a whole nother level of understanding. You know, as he always said, people seem to forget Egypt is in Africa.
That's correct.
Okay, you
That
know,
is correct.
and the Egypt, the Nile River starts in the heart of Africa, coming down from the mountains there. And that when you go in the tombs, the one thing that you look up and all you see are black faces up on the tombs.
That's correct. That is
And he
correct.
and he used to make a point of saying that when we were in Cairo at at the Great Pyramid, he said he would quote from Herodotus how the Greek scholars came to Egypt to learn,
That's
and
correct.
how Herodotus wrote about the pyramids like in 900 BC.
Hmm.
And something, coming from America and what we were taught in school, we had no idea. When he
That's
was
correct.
telling that, yeah, you know what was interesting, Calvin, and there were a couple people in the group that were so steeped in this American paradigm of who we are that they actually challenged him. They,
Uh-huh.
you know,
Hmm.
they were like, "Where do you get your information?" And he said, "Up on the walls."
That's correct. That is correct.
Yes,
That is
yes,
correct.
yeah. Wow. Mm-mm-mm. That's
Very
a
powerful.
that's a whole nother piece, man. That I think I wish our young people. We had a couple of young people with us. I took my 14-year-old son one time, and it really made a profound difference in his life. He became wiser overnight. And got a whole different sense of being. Uh, how do you handle distractions? When you're a person who's driven and doing things like you are, how do you handle distractions and stuff that tries to pull you off the path?
How do I handle distractions? I think what's most important to me is what is it that I want the most? I
Mm,
find that trials and tribulations help with removing distractions. And this is what I mean. Distractions are a way of us being able to hide from pain and trauma. Distractions are used to be able to justify not wanting to go through any more situations or problems or things that are going to cause us discomfort. Distraction is the easiest way to give up because it
mm,
seems like we're doing something when nothing is truly accomplished.
yes.
And so understanding the purpose behind distractions, what's going on, gives me the opportunity to ask what's going on with me, what's happening with me. It's an insight to help me understand what's going on and then to choose to do something different about that.
Wow. That's powerful. So, as they say, keep your eye on the prize. Yeah.
Keep your
Yeah.
eye on the prize and do not let distraction become the excuse for normality.
Woo! Do not let the distraction become the excuse for normality. Oh man, that's a diamond there. Yeah. They Now Calvin, you have been, just had a unique experience in being around the world and traveling and seeing different things. If you look back from where you are right now, what advice would you give your younger self?
The advice that I would give my younger self, Dr. Harris, is this: do not think that you have learned everything. Do not think that you have got it all together. Do not pretend to be something that you are not. Be humble enough to be able to continue to learn, to grow, and to be okay with failure. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. That's what I
Man.
would tell myself. And then be as gracious and caring as possible because we do not know what a day will bring.
Uh-huh.
Tomorrow is not promised. and we don't know what a person or an individual is going through or has been through. If
Yes.
we can at least show enough care in this world, um, for our fellow man and for ourselves to be gracious enough, it would solve a lot of problems.
Wow.
Forgiveness is important.
Mm.
Repentance is important.
Mm.
Letting go of fear, letting go of high expectations, letting go of the fear of failure, things like that that aren't taught in school anymore.
Wow.
Those things that are about humanity instead of knowledge and power.
Mm.
Being
Yes.
able to be reminded of what's most important, not forgetting our humanity.
Yes. Wow. Man, that, yeah. Now that's advice that a young man, a young woman could take and make all the difference in their lives.
Yes.
Now, looking at the other side, looking down the road 20, 35, 30 years from now, if you look back on your life, what advice would you give your present self?
Be open to change.
Woo! Be open to change. Now yeah.
Because our world is changing every day. It
Uh-huh.
it has changed from the time I was growing up. In fact, I'm on Instagram and I have this page that I follow that if you grew up in the 70s and 80s, it's hilarious. I
Uh-huh.
laugh about the things that I they show up as far as shows or how you knew where kids were back then was when you saw all the bikes laying down in front of a yard. That's where you knew where all the kids were.
Uh-huh.
Or the different shows that were on, like Fat Albert during that time, the lessons that were learned,
Yes.
and to be okay with where we're the changes that have happened since then, not just the um, changes of population and humanity or beliefs or things like that. I'm talking about technology. I'm talking
Mm.
about our world, how it's gotten smaller. I'm talking about the the issues that we thought that we were fighting back in the early 1900s that are rearing its heads up today
Mm.
as something being described as different, but it's just the same thing, just being repackaged. Uh,
Mm.
not not being stuck, but being open to change, and then how to apply that to help become better.
Mm. Okay. Wow. And I think as you get older, a lot of times folks in my generation think that the game is over. Game is never over.
The game is never over.
The
It is
game,
never over.
you know, when I was in Colorado and I went to Pikes Peak,
Yes.
and that train that goes up the hill there,
Hmm.
man, it seemed like that thing was going forever. I'm not a big outdoorsy person. Like I said,
Uh-huh.
I have a Jeep, and when I got the Jeep, the guy there telling you all the features on it, and the company gave us the Jeep, and then I did a little customization. And so the guy says, "Man," he says, "this Jeep has four-wheel drive, man, and you can go off road and go through the mud." And I said, "Look, if you see my car, my Jeep going through the mud, you call the cops, because somebody,
You call them real quick because that's
yeah,
not me.
that's not me. Somebody stole my car." You know,
Right?
but but I tell you, when I went to the top of Pikes Peak, I realized the people in my party all got sick.
Oh,
A-
okay.
And so, as a matter of fact, there was a military group up there that was studying. They had a base there that was studying fighting at high altitudes when they were
Right.
just going into and dealing with Afghanistan and those places. And I was amazed. I didn't feel anything. I'm like looking. I was just amazed at how far you could see.
Right. Right.
But the altitude, so it really told me that as you move up the line of consciousness, it made me think about, you know, when our young people have some success
Mm,
and they try to drag all their old homies along with them.
yeah.
And so
Yeah.
going up that Pikes Peak, the people who were with me, who were quite nice people, where we were on the ground at the hotel, but once we went up that peak, man, they got sick. I mean, one lady, she said, I got to go back down immediately. When the train turned around, she went right back down. She couldn't even stay there. The others got nauseous and whatnot.
Hmm.
And so it said, that everybody can't make that journey with you,
That's correct.
you
That's
know?
correct. Because each of us has our own journey in this life of what we have been created to do and
Mm,
what we've been created to give. And depending on who's with you, that can either encourage you to move forward with what you've been created to do or try to hold you back. And unfortunately, what I've learned over the years is that sometimes it can be people in your own household. And
yes.
that is a humbling and difficult thing to sometimes
Uh-huh.
deal with. And it
Yes.
it might not have anything to do with you, and it might be some reasons of fear and mistrust and all types of other things. And it's not. I want to say this delicately. It's not their life that's on the line.
Mm,
It's yours.
yes.
Make sure that you do what you can to take care of yourself. Love them, and you can love them from afar if you need to, but make sure that the decisions that you make, the choices that you make, are to help not only you, but to also help those around you to become better and to do something that's going to contribute instead of take away.
Wow. Yeah. As you were sharing that, I was thinking your unique perspective coming through the military. So often people are afraid to be alone, you know?
Mm,
And as
mm.
you on your journey, how important was it that you really learn how to be alone, how to trust yourself, how to be totally self-contained?
That came through trial and error, which
Mm,
that's why it's not. I. It's okay to fail.
mhm,
When you fail, that's an opportunity to ask yourself, where did I miss it? Where do I need to get better at? How can I become better? What do I need to learn? And this lesson that I'm learning, I better store this away because I know that there'll be others that will be brought to me that I could help and have encouragement and support for them on their journey.
mm,
And so being alone helps to flush things out. It's okay to be alone in our minds. It's okay not to have music blaring or things talking or entertainment around, and just to
mhm,
be alone and to be observant and to give us a chance to be quiet. It says in the scriptures that be still and know that I am God. I didn't take that seriously at times because I wanted to be about myself and trying to take care of things and go after things.
mhm,
But when a person is still, they get a chance to be still within themselves, still about around them, and to be able to bring peace and comfort and patience. Those are characteristics that are so vital for today,
mhm.
that being alone helps to do that. And being alone isn't an excuse to check out. It's not
Mhm,
it's not it's not an excuse to check out of this world, to check out of relationships, to step away from what's real and what's true.
mhm. Wow. I tell you, my good brother, I have enjoyed this interview. The time is going by so fast.
So
So,
fast, I understand.
so any advice? We have an interesting audience. We have young people. We have a lot of entrepreneurs. We have older people who've been through different things. And one of my older friends, he said, "Man," he said, "I listen to your program, man," and I'm like, "I want to get up and do something." I'm like, "Well, then I made the point, and then I have succeeded." Any final words you'd like to leave for our listeners, and then tell us what's next for you.
Okay. The final words for your listeners: God is real. You are loved and you were created to do something great. Don't give up.
Woo!
Those three things,
God is real.
important.
Yes, yes. Wow, beautiful. So what's next for you now, Calvin? What's
What's
your
next for
next
me?
project? Yes.
Next project is I'm being asked to create a fitness and wellness show for a couple of streaming opportunities. And so, for your listeners to want to get in touch with me and help possibly support that endeavor, they can go to my website, and the website is https:// ExodusAdventures.fitbud.com. That's Exodus without the E, starting with an X, XODUS, adventures.fitbud, FITBUDD.com. They can go there, go to my website, and I offer training, and I have options. I have tiers 1, 2, and 3. My biggest tier is for those that are wanting to have a complete and utter makeover as far as fitness and wellness and getting their self, basically getting their groove back and wanting to live life as an adventure. And that's
Mm,
for my high ticket item.
mm-hmm,
Then tier 2 is more along the lines where you have my one-on-one coaching for training and whatnot. And tier 3 is just strictly about my fitness app. You can also go to any of the uh, uh, app stores as far as like Google
mm-hmm,
Play or Apple and download Exodus Adventures. And again, Exodus without the E, starting with an X,
mm-hmm.
Adventures. You can download that. You can pull it up, download it on your phone, and then we can get the training started. You can contact me and we can work together. That's how people can find me. People can find me on Facebook at calvin.evans.7. They can find me on Instagram at the same moniker. They can find me on LinkedIn. They can find me on Snapchat. I can be found. And so with being
Yeah.
found, that means that if you were really serious and needing a change in your life, contact me and we can work through that. I have a
Wow.
background in Intel. I've got a background in basically how to overcome and being an overcomer. And
Mm,
that's the goal. We
mm,
need to support, help one another of how to overcome. Because the way the world is right now, it's really easy to get people scared and fearful. They can be
mm.
fearful of a pandemic, they can be
Yeah.
fearful of war, they can be
Yeah.
fearful of people, they can be fearful of all types of things.
Yes.
But when you're together and you're able to support one another, that is the greatest force on earth because nothing can stop you then.
Wow. You were doing that when you did your hand. I was thinking. I think it was Booker T. Washington, and he was saying, he said, we can be as separate as fingers on your hand, but then we can be like a fist with power. You
That's
know?
correct. That's
Yeah.
correct. And
Wow.
I didn't even get a chance to go over the fact that I was on the Discovery Channel a few years ago. I had a chance
Really?
to
Uh-huh.
be on television for a show called One Man Army Fear is Not an Option. And if your viewers want to see that, have them contact me and I can send them the link. It's great.
Beautiful, beautiful. So give your email address or your main contact thing again.
Main contact thing is https:// I'm sorry, // exodusadventures.fitbud.com.
Okay, got it. And I'll put it up on the link when we do it too. Yeah.
I
Well,
appreciate that.
well, I tell you, Calvin, I have enjoyed this, man. I admire the guys. I believe it or not, I'm older than 60,
You're
and
looking good, sir.
oh yeah, and I managed to I stay in decent shape. I don't push it, but I do my best. But I'm always admiring guys like yourself who really get into it, sculpt your body, sculpt your mind, and really have that discipline. Really, I think a lot of it comes down to discipline. That
Yes,
discipline to create your body, your mind, your spirit exactly the way you want it to be. And I take my hat off to you, brother.
I appreciate it. It's been an honor, sir. And because I've been in fitness and wellness for as long as I have, I'm 50 years young. And I thank God that I'm able to take good care of myself, able to spend time with family and friends, go and do activities and adventures still. That's what I want to do. I want to live this
Wow.
life to the fullest.
Wow. Well, I guess two things. One, I think I have a son about your age.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah. And I mentioned you mentioned our book. Did you have any particular experiences with the 12 Universal Laws of Success?
Dr. Harris, I want to say this. Your book is a great reminder of what it takes to be successful in this life isn't dependent on wealth.
Mm. Wow.
It's not dependent on wealth.
Uh-huh.
It's dependent on a clear mind, a clear heart, and the spiritual guidance to take one day at a time. Your book encapsulates that, and I want to say thank you for writing that book, sir.
Thank you, my friend. All right, Kalvin, it's been a great interview. And to our audience out there, you know, sometimes you get on an interview and it's hard to stop. You say, well, we're going to do a half hour. But one of the things that I've learned today is that number one, we need to honor our military people
Thank you.
because they have provided such a profound service to this nation. But also, number two, that you can truly be anything you want to be, that to be open and aware, to be open to travel, to learn new things. And as Kalvin said, to be aware that everything changes, that always be in a learning mode and a growing mode. And when you can do that, then truly you can be what you want to be, do what you want to do, and have anything you desire, always knowing that the best is yet to come.